Um, the album never got released of the live material, and nothing happened from 1976 to 1979. Well, after at least a year after I had already embarked on a solo career, that we got together for a couple of months with singer Evan Johns, the three of us with Evan, and went under the name of the Rockabilly Avalanche. Nothing happened with that either. Um, After that, things were sporadic. From 1979 to 1984, we never got back together again until 1984, when we got back together and successfully this time did about 4 months worth of reunion shows, which were highly attended and greatly appreciated. And the last time that Danny and the Fat Boys played together was June the 13th of 1986, the day that Benny Goodman passed away. And that was the very last time that we played together. And I guess that's the story. Do you have any questions you'd like to ask? Is there any particular part you'd like me to expand upon of that? That's an outline of a story, but if there's some things you'd like me to expand upon.
Yeah. Now, how initially did you wasn't clear as to how you initially met Danny Gatton.
How I met Danny Gatton?
Yeah, initially.
Okay. In 1964, now we're going back a long time ago. We're going back a quarter of a century now. I was working with a young guitarist. I was even younger than he was then. I was like 16 years old. And I guess he was about 18. His name was Mike Boyd. And Mike had lived in Congress Heights, southeast Washington, D.C. And he kept talking about a school chum of his named Danny Gatton. He says, Billy, you got to hear this guy. He's absolutely the best that I've ever heard. Well, it was another year before I would hear Danny Gatton for the first time. It was Danny Gatton came to one of our shows at the Devonshire Grill up on Wisconsin Avenue, the 4000 block, but he didn't play. He was just in the audience watching Mike Boyd because they were pals. At a place called the Red Fox Inn. Do you know what street the Red Fox Inn is? Name some streets off of Old Georgetown Road.
Old Georgetown, Cordell, Elmo, Auburn.
No, going toward Wisconsin now.
Towards Wisconsin.
Yes.
The one which Tasty Diner's on?
No, in between there.
Elmo?
Not Elmo,
No.
not Cordell, not Auburn. Well, anyway, it was called the Red Fox Inn. And
Something Mont?
something like that, yeah.
Hmm.
Fairmont or something like that?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was. It was that street. And I went in there, and that was the first time I saw Dick Heinze and Danny Gatton. Danny had a double neck Mose Wright guitar, candy apple red sparkle. He impressed me highly because he was playing like James Burton, and I really, really liked the way he was being done. And then I didn't see Danny Gatton for
And how old was Danny on stage?
19 years old, 20, something like that. When was Danny born? 1945, 1965, 20, maybe 20, maybe 19.
Was he old enough to be in that club playing, like officially, or not? Probably not.
Probably not. Probably was 21 years old back then in PG County or Montgomery County. So I didn't see Danny Gatton for another 4 years. Second time I run into him is I was living in Baltimore for a while, and the second time I run into him was after in 1968. and he was playing at the Quonset hut, and I was playing with the house band, and he came in with an opening act, and he sat in a chair and played. Didn't stand up, but he played well. And then in 1969 or early 70, that's when we got to be pretty good friends. I was hanging out at a studio in Arlington, Mitch Corday's original affiliated studio, and Danny was in there doing an album that never ever was released. It's a fabulous album called the Bingo Bango Banjo Man. And that's where I first was introduced to Danny's art. Not just playing top 40 songs, or the first time I saw him do what he really does best, and that's be Danny Gatton. And it was after that I went back with what was left of the Fallen Angels that I had been with before, and a group called Love and Trust. After that broke up, then I went directly into the Roy Buchanan band. Danny also did a stint with Roy Buchanan, playing slide guitar behind Roy and rhythm guitar behind Roy. And it came time to where Danny got tired of being Roy's flunky and started playing some guitar on stage, and Roy fired Danny for upstaging, as he did me. That was the reason that I got the pink slip, because I was told by Roy's wife that I purposely upstaged him, and he was a star. We were both fired, but not at the same time. Danny was slightly before me. And like I said earlier, we'll get back to the point where I'm working now with Gene Vincent, who I did some stuff with back in 1967, but that has nothing to do with the Fat Boys. That was what I was doing right before Danny and I getting together and putting together the first tunes, which were rhythm and blues and rockabilly and folk rock, country rock. Didn't have any particular direction. I think it's kind of obvious on our tapes, sessions. Eclecticism. So
that was praised in Billboard.
Yes, it was praised in Billboard. It really was. In Pix, it was praised, but heavily panned by local critics. Heavily panned by local critics.
Well, why don't we talk say a little something about the songs that are chosen and featured on this first tape?
Well, the songs that are featured on this first tape are from two sets of sessions. They're songs, studio stuff that was done in Track Recording Studio in Silver Spring, Maryland, on Georgia Avenue, between the years of 1974 and 1976. And live material, which was recorded in one afternoon or one evening at the Psychedelic Restaurant on Cordell Avenue, which was a restaurant concert hall delicatessen, and had a sort of like a small ballroom in the back. And that was recorded August of 1976. So all the sessions heard on the very first tape that's going to be issued is from years of 1974 to 1976. However, there's stuff to come that will come from 1971 and 1972 and 3 on some other volumes. But that's all the material is from either one of two things: the track sessions or the Sonority Roger Byrd live sessions.
And these tapes are composed of songs that have been on the American
Music album, and about half of the first tape are songs that have been released on the American Music album, whereas the other half have never been released. This is the first time they've ever been released. They've never been released before.
Okay.
Previously unreleased, as they say.
Mm.